What's happening, ladies and gentlemen of the internet? It's your boy, Jack Slack, and let's get down to business to defeat the Huns. Did they send me daughters when I asked for sons? This is the saddest card I've ever seen, and you can bet before we're through, somehow I'll make a man out of you. That's Donny Osmond. No one knows that. Whenever you tell anyone, they go, what? Yeah, we're in China. Heading over to China. Just, casually trying to dominate or enter at least the Asian market. World fucking domination. Do you not remember that from like 5 years ago, the UFC annual press conference? They did like a couple of shows in Macau, which is famously China light because you can gamble there, and I think it's got like similar Vegas style tax laws. So Manny Pacquiao fought there a few times. But then we went Beijing last year. No, Shanghai 2017, Beijing last year. We're going to Shenzhen now, all coinciding with like opening up a performance institute there. We desperately want some Chinese talent because, like, if you followed any, well, no, not any sport. If you followed some of the sports that China has suddenly taken an interest in, they've got very good at things very quickly, and you know, understandable because if you put government funding towards various sports, and you've got 1 billion people to choose from. Some of them are going to be natural athletes, and some of those natural athletes are going to be pretty good at any given sport. But right now, it's Weili Zhang, The Leech, and Zhu Zhangdong. And Zhu Zhangdong is doing more for MMA than both those guys, to be honest. So we're in an awkward situation, especially because China is currently fucking with Hong Kong pretty badly. In fact, this also ties in with our history episodes we did a while back. We were talking about how Hong Kong was really, it was taken during the Opium War, before this is awkward because there are 2 Opium Wars, but then sometimes you're only considering it one Opium War, and the second one is called the Arrow Incident. But before the Opium War, basically the British were kicked out of Canton, where they had a little community of traders. It wasn't just the British, actually. It was a lot of Westerners, including the Americans. And they had to sign an indemnity or whatever it was to say that they wouldn't be shipping in opium, and the American traders weren't. So they were like, okay, and went straight back to trading and took all the British trade that the British had been working so hard on. Because the British would refuse. They were like, we don't carry any opium, but we're also not signing that. Anyway, so that's how we ended up on Hong Kong. It was a British settlement in China, stocked mainly with Chinese people who came over the river to live in a British settlement. And then in Rush Hour 2, I think you'll remember, we gave it back. And ever since, it's been a little bit topsy-turvy over there. What is it, like the highest price of real estate per meter in the world, maybe, or maybe central Tokyo slightly beats it. But anyway, during the week, Dana White was asked, like, so will the event still go ahead? Parentheses, even if China commits a massacre in Hong Kong. And Dana White said, yes, the event will go ahead no matter what. Parentheses, even if China commits a massacre in Hong Kong. So that's where we're at. Meanwhile, like 1/7 of Hong Kong's population is on the streets any day of the week, which is pretty fucking awesome, to be honest. That you can mobilize that many people and that they all agree on something. Anyway, so that's the geopolitical context for the event. The real context for the event is, please, China, we desperately want you to like MMA, because much like Hollywood, we realize that even if price of admission is less over there, or you can charge less, it's not like Jakarta, where one can't make any money, but even a percentage of 1 billion people, or a percentage of a percentage, a fraction of a percentage of 1 billion people is a lot of money. The most hilarious part, like reading into I took it on myself to read into like Hollywood's pandering to China over this last couple of weeks, and one of the more fascinating things was that you all know about like the preemptive censoring that they're doing. Like, Kingdom Hearts isn't Hollywood, but basically the much anticipated Winnie the Pooh section of Kingdom Hearts 3, when people got done playing it, they were like, was that entirely pointless? And the reason that it was made entirely pointless was because they knew it would get cut immediately on going to China, so the whole thing had to make sense without it. But, more recently, studios have been trying to work out how to pander to China, and they've been putting in, like, more Chinese actors and things, and apparently it doesn't seem to make any difference, because, like, Aquaman, which has no Chinese actors in, was the biggest film in China of the year, apparently. So no one really knows how we pander to China, but I love panda to China is such a great phrase. I was going to say it in my Filthy Casuals guide this week and have an actual panda in a rice paddy hat, but I didn't get around to making it. I made a Lomachenko one instead. Anyway, that's what we're doing. We're pandering to China. News this week. Only a couple of things, but quite interesting, I thought. Well, just the continuing shit show of MMA and certainly MMA twilight years. Gonzaga versus Bigfoot is signed. ... For Bare Knuckle FC. Two guys who can't box. One of them can't even take a shot. Gonna get bare knuckle and smash each other's faces and bleed a lot. Slightly more interesting, Tyrone Spong, sorry, legendary Dutch kickboxer. A lot of people assume he's retired because he had that last match against Saki, broke his leg in half, kicking into a check because it doesn't matter if you're Tyrone Spong or Anderson Silva or anyone. If you kick full power into a check, you're going to hurt yourself. But a lot of people assumed he retired after that because he dabbled in MMA for like 2 fights in World Series of Fighting as like a favour to Ray Safo. And then he trained with the Black Zillions for a while and then he disappeared. But the truth is, he went to boxing and he's been quietly amassing a pretty good record. He was like WBO's Latin American champion or some shit. He had one of the made up belts. But in the course of that time, he has snuck into the WBO's top 15 at heavyweight, which means, you know, I mean, there's 4 organizations and they all refuse to rank anyone who's ranked in anyone else's or, you know, in the same place at least. So there's about 50 top 15 heavyweights in the world, but Tyrone Spong is one of them, along with Kyotaro. Even weirder. But the story gets odder because if you read the piece I wrote for Unibet a little while ago, it was about Usyk, going up from cruiserweight to heavyweight and immediately being put into the WBO's #1 contender spot. But because super fights between champions, or whatever they're called, not super fights, unification fights between champions, take precedence over #1 contender / mandatory challenger, Usyk is trying to stay busy. He's going to take his first fight at heavyweight. His first fight at heavyweight is against Tyrone Spong, you know, who's also sort of small for a heavyweight. But how cool is that? Tyrone Spong versus Usyk in boxing. That's just bizarre that that's happening. And it's totally not... it's less of a gimme than Tom Schwartz was for Tyson Fury. So, you know, pretty dope. And of course, Nicky Hoskin gave an amazing account of himself when was that? Against Callum Smith. But it was good, yeah. And then the only other piece of news of the week was Henry Cejudo was asked to call out Dom Cruz because Dom Cruz was due to take a fight with John Lineker. That fell through. It's been like 3 years since he fought, but the UFC are desperate to get him back in title contention. So they were like, Cejudo, please, could you call out Dom Cruz? And then Dom Cruz comes back with a snappy midget remark, and everyone goes, oh, he's a cerebral assassin. So that was the week that was. Let's talk about some of these fights. Actually, I should probably do a quick recap of that Bellator. If you saw the Bellator at the weekend, firstly, everyone was raving about it. They were like, most fights to not go to the judges since UFC 2, which didn't have judges. And you went, oh, wow, okay. And then you watch it, and you realise, no, shit fights are still shit fights, even if they finish. I watched Amosov lay on Dave Rickles for 2 rounds before finally darsing him. The fact that it was ended with a finish doesn't make the 2 rounds up to that less shit. Same was true of those 2 fatties low kicking each other. I was talking about the first fight on the main card, but I could well have been talking about Sergey Haratonov versus Mitrione. And then, you know, they had that woman on who was their like number 3 in whatever women, is it strawweight? Elima May McFarlane's division, against some girl with a losing record of like 4-7. So yeah, just shit. It's standard Scott Coker treatment, you know? It used to be, like, people used to joke when Scott Coker was a kickboxing promoter, they used to joke that you could just bet on the left-hand side of the card. And I think it's still true. We keep saying, why don't we actually all get together and just bet on all the favourites on one of these Bellator cards? Not one of the ones with, like, a legitimate fight on, like Patricio. Patricio's not legit. Patricio versus Chandler or something like that. I'm talking about, like, these nonsense cards that are clearly made to have a lot of finishes on. Anyway, enough with that. What's going on this China card? Ismagalov's back versus Thiago Moises. That's a decent fight. Fucking hell, we're short on names I know here. Andre Sigmatath. Excellent. Against the 167th ranked bantamweight in the world. Sue Maderji. Do you know what? Fuck it. Let's just jump to the main event. Jessica Andrade versus Weili Zhang. I wrote a Weili Zhang piece this week because I was doing Filthy Casuals Guide and I was like, this is way more interesting for the ideas than it is for her actual fights. Her actual fights are incredibly tame and dull. But what she does is pretty cool when you think about it. It's kind of like awesome if someone in a good division did that with more weapons. That'd be awesome. But Weili Zhang was a Sanda competitor / kickboxing competitor. Sanda, if you don't know, it's the Chinese style of kickboxing. Basically, whenever anyone says Kung Fu's fake, someone always goes, but Sanda, mate. And basically, if you wanted to actually kick and punch people, Sanda was your one. And there's a sort of like a more emphasis on throws and takedowns and things. So like Kung Lee was the Sanda fighter from the West, or San Shao they used to call it when he was competing. But basically, there is Sanda. Sanda's big in China. And I think it's still pretty much an amateur sport for the most part. They have the King of Sanda each year. I can't remember if that's a professional competition or not. But the Sanda World Cup is up every year on YouTube, and it's always good fun for like kick catches and slick throws that look like they're straight out of a Kung Fu movie. But Kung Lee used to compete against basically, Kung Lee was an American dude who wrestled in high school, and he was also Vietnamese. And we took him to China because we they'll love him. But he had good wrestling and very cool kicks from, I think it was a childhood in Taekwondo or something like that. So he was naturally suited to this sport without actually being brought up in the sport of Sanda, which is pretty cool. But basically, when Kung Lee was coming up in America, promoters / Scott Coker would find him kickboxers who had never done a Sanshao fight. So basically, it's dudes who only know how to fight standing up, and then he'd duck in on their hips and slam them on their head, or do like a 6 Kani Basami takedown. So that was sort of like most people's exposure to Sanda / Sanshao. Really, it's a lot more interesting when you've got two guys who know what they're doing. And that's mainly like amateur stuff you see on YouTube, like the World Championships each year. But almost every fighter who comes out of China now in MMA has some kind of background in Sanda, and it means that they always open their fight with a 6 spin kick or hook kick or side kick and then never go to it again. And it's kind of cool because when you allow people to kick, the whole body as opposed to just the waist and up, like in American kickboxing, their stance becomes a lot more important. Bill Wallace and people like that, and Joe Louis, not Joe Louis the boxer, Joe Louis as in spelt like John Lewis, the department store, they could stand side on and set up their side kick because they weren't worried about getting kicked in the leg. And Stephen Thompson can do it now because he's a little bit more, distance a bit greater. That MMA distance, which is always like a sign that someone's about to start talking nonsense, but it is a real thing. Guys who try and fight side on in the ring always tend to, in the kickboxing, in kickboxing tend to have a lot of trouble. Raymond Daniels is one who did also have a lot of trouble, but has come out to excel in kickboxing. But there's still a lot of problems he runs into. And just spin kicks his guy in the head before it becomes a problem, unless they're Nicky Holzken or Joseph Valtellini. But the thing about Sanda is that, and kickboxing generally, is that you have to stand a little bit more square so that you can take the kicks to the leg or retract your leg or pick it up. You can't really do those all very effectively from the side-on style. I mean, Bill Wallace used to say that he could pick up his leg and hook kick someone in the head, and Bill Wallace had amazing leg dexterity, so he probably could, but it's still not a very reliable evasion to just try and hook kick as the opponent's kicking your leg. So there's always this playoff between the square stance and the side-on stance that's necessary to do the cool spinning shit and the side kicks. And so, the most basic level of back kick in MMA, and the one that really started the whole thing off, is the Dennis Siver / David Lusso. What is it, Lusso? The Crow. That style of jab, and as you jab, you step with your foot, and as you step with your foot, it goes straight on a line from your back foot and you turn side on. So the jab, however half-assed, is concealing you stepping into a side-on stance, and then you turn into your kick. And then, we're talking very recently, guys actually started learning how to use back kicks and wheel kicks and things. I remember I was writing about this stuff in 2013, 14, and I was going, nobody's worked out yet that when guys are strafing along the fence with their back to the fence, that's the time to go for back kicks and wheel kicks. Now, everyone's doing it. Including Weili Zhang. She did it against Tisha Torres and Danielle Taylor. So those are your two basic ones, because the first is you jabbing and stepping into a bladed stance. The second is the opponent moving past your lead leg so that if you turn, if you just turned and kicked, you can do that on a line out to your left side if you're left foot forwards. Whereas if you were very square, you can't necessarily turn and kick straight on a line in front of you very well. The squarer you stand, remember that the pivot point is your left foot. So you're going to be like, it's going to be like a barn door swinging out. Whereas if you're on a line, with your left foot in front of you and your side on, there's very little of you to spin out from the target. Not explaining that well, but you know what I mean if you've ever done a back kick or a wheel kick or something. Now, the interesting thing about Zhang, and there isn't a lot of interesting stuff about Zhang, but this is the interesting bit, is that she relies really, really heavily on the inside low kick. And again, go read the article if you're a Patreon boy, because I did all the diagrams and stuff. I'm going to say it here, but you can read my cool phrases and look at the diagrams. But she uses the inside low kick a lot. And she makes some incredible distance on it. Like, she'll skip her back foot up, and she does it with such, force that her back foot is not replacing her front foot. It ends up in front of where her front foot was. So she's really, going for it. The downside of that, of course, is that as soon as someone retreats, which is the standard defense for everything in MMA, or retracts their leg, which is, high-level elite striking in MMA right now, your leg goes straight past you, and you're out of position. Now, out of position is relative. If you parry someone's kick across yourself, that's a good time to step in and start smacking them because they're going to have to get back to their stance, or so you would think. But if you miss the inside low kick and the opponent's moved away, that is, and they begin to come back in, because you've rotated through to kick, you are no longer square, your hip is pointing at them, you're side on, so all you need to do is touch your foot down to the floor and come back with the side kick. And that's how Weili Zhang's been catching everyone. She caught Danielle, caught Tisha Torres. Well, that's it. Everyone, brackets. But yeah, it's a really cool little setup. It's kind of similar to Stephen Thompson's favorite setup. Sorry, Wonderboy. I can't say his name without saying Stephen Wonderboy Thompson in the middle. But that's one of his favorite setups. Is he goes 1-2, darts out to his left side, so he's in a southpaw stance, and the opponent turns to follow him, and then he hits him with the right leg in the stomach as they follow him. The side kick is probably more useful as an intercepting kick. And that's something that we always talk about when we talk about Yair Rodriguez versus, say, Lando Venata. Both of them use that side kick to the lead leg, but the opponent's always gone when Yair Rodriguez starts trying to do it because he wants to invert your knee every time he does it, whereas Lando Venata is just stepping on your lead leg whenever you're trying to step in. And guys start coming in more aggressively as a result, and he can counter off it. But yeah, catching dudes in the breadbasket with the side kick, any sort of straight kick works very well as a stopping kick. Chasing people with the side kick is a little bit reckless, but she chases people with the inside low kick, and that's a little bit weird in its own right. Doesn't really use it as the counter. If you saw her against Jessica, is it Aguilera? Yeah, Christina's sister, I believe. But if you saw her against Jessica Thingy, the last Jessica she fought, she was immediately backed up to the fence. And she's trying to do the kicking off the back foot, and it's just not working. And you're like, well, that's not promising against Jessica Andrade. But you can see her do, back kicks off this, too. She'll miss the lead leg inside low kick. She'll put the left foot down, and then kick the right foot out behind her, and then she'll spin on the spot from there, like a little hopping spin. Caught Tisha Torres with that. She also does a nice spinning back fist out of that stance. And the other one she does is she'll miss the inside low kick and the opponent won't step in and she's ready to side kick them. She'll just step across but stay in a side on stance. She'll use that kick to transition into the side on stance and then adopt the side on stance for a period and then go back to a straight on stance. It's kind of, well, this is what I said in the article, it's kind of like switching from orthodox to southpaw and the opponent having to keep up, but you're doing it with a much smaller shift. You're going from square to side on. And this is Brendan Ingle used to claim that he taught 5 stances because he taught left and right stance, but he also taught square and bladed stances from both of those. And he taught feet level as well, which, you can't fight bladed and feet level, but you can fight feet level and square. What else is there to know about Weili Zhang? I mean, the other thing, that basically all her good connections come off the inside low kick. The opponent steps in on her and she swings her hands. And she'll land a fairly decent left hook, and her right hand is nothing to write home about. And the thing is, she's big and strong for that weight class, but she doesn't have a lot of pop. You don't think that Andrade has an awful lot of pop, but she clearly has enough pop to worry other women when she hits them. Zhang's thing really is being quite strong, and in that Tisha Torres fight, there was an awful lot of throwing the inside low kick. Tisha Torres would step up the middle, and then they'd both try and head and arm each other. It just went back into Invicta level fight. And they both of them at some point in the fight head and armed the opponent and then got rolled over off the head and arm. And that's one of the things that I love about Jessica Andrade. She doesn't fuck around with the head and arm, because the head and arm, I think it has a place and it's absolutely brilliant if you use it well. But women's MMA has an addiction to the head and arm. And I see, for every one that I see go right, I see someone get do the head and arm and you get rolled over, or do the head and arm and then get like the opponent throws their legs up over their head and they get into like a head scissory thing. There was a whole round of that in one the other day. Or they do the head and arm and they lose their head and the opponent goes out the back because they're sweaty as fuck. Oh, maybe it's the ponytail that's helping on the head and arm. Maybe that's what it is, because a lot of women have ponytails. We're always saying this. It's like, what is it? Is it the tits? Is it the width of the hips to the upper body? What is it that makes the women love the head and arm? Or more successful with the head and arm is the thing that they always say. And you're like, well, men aren't really attempting it nearly as much. Whereas you see it a dozen times in any women's fight, you see them go for it. But Jessica Andrade don't fuck around with it. She uses lower body takedowns. Zhang actually has some cool upper body takedowns that aren't the head and arm. Yeah, Jessica Andrade's whole thing is move in on you, swing on you, duck in your hips on the fence, or get the double collar tie. She can be sort of stalled out with the double collar tie. Angie Hill did that well, but also got hit in the body, because that's the sort of trade-off. You're using the double collar tie, you're creating space between your chest and your opponents. You've got that forearm in front of their collarbones as like a wedge, and you can try and land knees, but it's quite tricky. But you can make space, the Demetrius Johnson style, the Fabricio Verdum style. But you are giving up the body shots, like Nick Diaz and people like that, would just put themselves in the double collar tie and like hip into you and hit your body. Fabio Maldonado, he wasn't good at much, but he was good at that. So I think that's the thing. Like, Weili Zhang's weapons, so far, what I've seen of her in the UFC, and to be fair, the UFC kind of did her dirty, because she had a 95% finishing rate before she got to the UFC. And then they put her in with two of the most boring fighters in the division. They put her in with Danielle Taylor, who's just going to run around the outside and then swing once in every, 40 seconds or something. And Tisha Torres, who just like comes in going, we've got a game plan ready for this one, and the game plan is always standing at long range, despite being the shortest person in the division. But I feel like people who aren't scared of Zhang, and Zhang was put on the fence by Aguilar, whatever her name is, Jessica won, pretty easily. Even though she had a big size advantage, she was clearly stronger than this last, because basically her answer was she was put on the fence and she turned it around and threw her. And it wasn't like slick Ronda Rousey turn it around and throw her. It was like, I don't think you'd get away with that against Jessica Andrade, because Jessica Andrade is former bantamweight. One thing I do like about Weili Zhang actually on the ground is that she's very accurate with her elbows, from side control especially. I don't know why, because like one of the things that you see good fighters do as soon as they get in side control is try and take that arm near their head away from their head. Not only because of the strikes, but also because that's the crossface is the main thing. That's one of the best ways to hold someone down. And if you can clear it, you can start moving your hips a lot more freely and start, turning or bumping or making space. So guys are desperate to keep their hand away. Whereas in Weili Zhang's fights, people are just sort of like covered up, and she'll just aim her elbow and perfectly connect. She always gets the point of the elbow right on the head and just does it over and over again. And they're not powerful strikes, but they do cause cuts. Aguilar was a mess by the time that the fight finished. And there was a cool triangle choke in there too. But do she got what it takes to keep Andrade off her? And the thing is, like, Andrade is not a puzzle. Everyone should know how to beat Andrade because it's been shown a couple of times now. Joanna and Jacek, we're returning to this weird stylistic trinity now, because Rose Namajunas is very awkward for Joanna and Jacek, because Joanna and Jacek is at her best against people who come in straight. I mean, that's why I always thought that the Valentina fight was horrible for her when they signed it at, strawweight, because like Joanna likes people who come at her. She had the most accurate jab in MMA, and then that evaporated when Rose Namajunas was in front of her, because Rose Namajunas wasn't putting her face on the jab. And the same is true of Valentina Shevchenko, obviously. No Valentina disses in this podcast. But, that's the stylistic matchup. Joanna and Jacek absolutely handled Andrade, because she was constantly circling out, and she almost never got behind the black line, or, the mini interior octagon. We should think up a name for that. But basically, she never got behind that. And even if she did, she hit a much tighter 90-degree circle out. But because Andrade's weapon, for hurting people, is the left hook, and she throws it straight arm, and it's such a short weapon because she's so short, her arm's so short, it barely ever catches anyone or does what it's supposed to. They have to give up and get put on the fence, or make a mistake and get put on the fence, and then she can left hook them. If she had some fucking low kicks, she was low kicking Rose Namajunas, and then she wasn't doing anything with it. If she had, I said this earlier, but if she had the level of striking coach that she does Chemist, she would be a lot better. The inside low kick to overhand and left hook, or inside low kick, left hook, overhand, inside low kick to windmill. Dan Henderson did amazing things with that because the inside low kick makes the opponent do something. If they're circling out and you throw the inside low kick, you kick their leg, you have that nice thing where you stop their leg and you've basically pulled yourself onto them. That's the point of any herding strike. If you hit someone's guard as they're circling out, you have slowed their movement or stopped their movement, and you've pulled yourself up to them, and then you continue from there. But if you check an inside low kick, you have to pick your leg up and stop moving to do that. So, the inside low kick is such a useful weapon for Andrade, but she doesn't even know it. A lot of people were saying Tatiana Suarez deserves the title fight more than Weili Zhang, and that Weili Zhang's been rushed into this one. What can you say? Tatiana Suarez should have been more Chinese. Because we're pandering to China. So the co-main event, fucking hell, I think this might be the only other... Oh no, Kenan Song's alright, but... This is the only other... Oh, Mizuki Inoue's on the card. Cool. But this is the only other one I'm going to talk about because Zaleski is awesome and Li Jiangliang is good. He says that now Zaleski's going to lose. But Zaleski is a very interesting guy because he was doing amazing in the UFC. And clearly, I watch all these cards, or at least I have been going back the last... However long we've been doing this podcast, I make sure to watch the whole card, or, as much of it as possible. Before that, I was watching the cards to try and write articles on the interesting stuff that happened on the undercards. So I've been watching the whole card for quite a while. But Zaleski turned up in 2015. And I must have seen him, because I watched Nicholas Dalby's fights, and he fought Nicholas Dalby. And he fought Max Griffin, Sean Strickland, people like that. But... for some reason, I didn't remember him until he was fighting my boy Curtis Millender, my deeply, deeply flawed boy, Curtis Millender. But he's now on a streak of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 victories, and a streak of 3 finishes. Much like Vicente Luque, another guy nobody had ever heard of, or certainly when I put out the Filthy Casuals guide, people were like, why are you talking about this guy? Why can't you talk about whatever was the main event? But, that welterweight division, that is a rich division for talent, because 7 wins, 8 wins on the trot, and you're still co-main event on some Chinese card, mainly because we want to give Li Jiangliang a fight. Jingliang, sorry, whatever. Li Jingliang, obviously most people remember him for trying to tear Jake Matthews' eyes out of his fucking head to escape a guillotine, and that's where I sort of turned on him. Had that fight with Daichi Abe, and then he fought David Zuado in his last one, which was a good little fight. He does put good pressure on people, and the sidekick to the body that he finished it with was dope. And that ties in with, what we were talking about, sidekicking from a stance that's not set up to sidekick. You need to do a preliminary motion, and for Weili Zhang, her preliminary motion is missing her favorite kick and then catching with her second favorite kick, or missing her most frequent kick, whatever, and catching you with her second most frequent kick. I don't know what to make of this one, because Zaleski's a fun striker. He's got that sort of awkward Brazilian Muay Thai style boxing where you have your elbows up and you look like you're paddling a kayak, but he does have good timing, and he's he can spot an opening well. Whereas Jingliang is not the prettiest, but he does land his strikes, put good volume together, and put the pressure on over the rounds. So, interesting. I mean, you're not giving Li Jingliang an easy fight there. Props to him, because they could in China. You'd be like, can we get one of the named Chinese a win here? Where's Song Yadong when you need him? And I suppose the other interesting one, for me at least, is that Mizuki Inoue is back. And this will be her first fight in the UFC. We were all super high on her when she fought back in Invicta. She fought Karolina Kowalkiewicz, and then Alexa Grasso, everyone was super hot on her and said she's got good boxing, and then Mizuki Inoue came and put some good boxing on her. Yeah, Mizuki Inoue is interesting. She was kind of hot with the weebs. Everyone sort of liked her, but she does have some very crisp hands when she wants to. I say when she wants to. I feel like she doesn't have as much control as that. But sometimes she'll turn up and her hands just look super sharp, and then other times she'll turn up and look kind of uninspired. Just one of those hit and miss fighters. But coming in off a win in Invicta, I mean, it's well timed she got the call up, to be fair, because she's been in Invicta since like she fought there in 2013. Anyway, I got some really good questions this week, but I wanted to save them for somewhere we can discuss them a bit more. Got a great one about martial arts filmography, or rather like the filming of fight scenes and things. And I'm always happy to have a rant about that. And they even mentioned like WWE doing the stupid camera in and out stuff. So we'll talk about that next week. But I just wanted to get this out before the fights happen, because this is a Friday business. You know, you've got to get your stuff out by Friday, otherwise there's no point doing it. We got some more interesting stuff coming up soon. We've had a little bit of a downer in the middle. I mean, there were a load of finishes on that Bellator card, but you don't need me to talk about some guy finishing some other guy in an uninteresting way. Though that Haritonov versus Mitrione fight was bizarre. The dude, I think he was wearing a mouthpiece that he hadn't molded or something, but yeah, he couldn't hold it in his mouth. They got into the ring before he realized. And then every time Sergey hit him, even lightly, the mouthpiece was popping out. And then, like, Sergey Haritonov, I mean, I'm always complaining about him being called, like, the dark horse of the heavyweight division when he's just not going to be, like, a great heavyweight now. And he turns up a lot of the time having forgotten how to grapple, and he's never learned how to check a low kick. But he does have a decent jab and an amazing right hand. But he also has saint-like patience, because Matt Mitrione came out of the first clinch going, my mouthpiece is out. Coming out of a clinch which wasn't broken by the referee. Sergey's just looking at him and letting him talk. You're like, you could have chinned that dude there. The mouthpiece pops out like 2 more times in that round. And even on the second time, Sergey tries to continue fighting and then stops and waits for, I think it was Big Dan, to put the mouthpiece back in. You're going, you're too nice, man. Just knock his teeth out. But then, Frank Mir and people like that, as soon as their mouthpiece comes out, they go, fuck that. Nope, not doing that. Dental care is expensive, and getting hit with no mouthpiece in is not fun. Anyway, so we'll do some questions next time. And then we finally, I was about to start saying how long must I wait, but we're heading towards Khabib versus Poirier. That is a fucking awesome fight. I don't even know what to expect. I was saying this before, but like, I've been studying Poirier's fights for a while. I started studying them more seriously back before the Holloway fight, and I was going, fucking hell, this guy's developing his own weird boxing style, and it's working really well. That's what I love about him. He's not doing something that someone says, that's the way to do it. He's doing his own thing, but he's making himself harder to hit and landing more blows as a result, and you can't ask for anything more than that. But I've seen very little of him on the bottom, and a lot of his stuff on the bottom, I've seen him sort of getting back to closed guard, holding, things like that. I feel like for Khabib, you're going to need a bit more of an active bottom game. And to be honest, I'm getting to the point where I'm like, so many of these guys now are amazing at countering the wall walk, because the wall walk is, everyone says that wrestling is the cornerstone of MMA. It's the one important skill. But I think wall wrestling specifically is the most important skill, because a lot of gyms do that every day. They'll finish their striking session and they'll do some wall wrestling, because it's the most important portal of MMA. If you can walk on the wall, you can get up. But these guys are getting so good now, like Usman, Covington, Khabib. There's loads of them now, or there's certainly a few of the very good ones who are just capitalizing on the wall walk so well that even if you get up, you're just going down again. Like there's never that point where you get up and they go, fuck, he's up, and you get away. Which was like the Chuck Liddell thing. If you got up, you were like, fuck, I've got to take him down again. Whereas for these guys, it's just like, and down we go again. You're never getting off the fence, mate. I'm getting to the point where I'm thinking, dive away from the fence is the best bet. If you feel like they're going to take you down, try and turn yourself off the fence, where you can use your guard more, where if they pressure into you, they're not pressuring you into a wall, they're pressuring you towards the center of the cage, and you're going to move. You've got distance behind you to shrimp, create space, try and scramble up. Be in a situation where they're trying to hold you down, because it's very hard to apply pressure forward and down, as opposed to apply pressure into the fence and just smush people. But we'll talk more, all about this next week. This isn't really a Poirier versus Khabib episode, but I'm just giving you where my thoughts are at the moment, because I'm starting to harvest footage for whatever kind of filthy casual guide I end up doing, whether it's a specific thing about Khabib or Poirier, or we do the matchup or whatever. Yeah, in fact, just tell me what you prefer for that. I think probably matchup is what most people would prefer, because we've already done some Poirier stuff. And I think we did some Khabib stuff in like the brief history of Smesh. That one was not as amazingly received as I thought it would be in terms of view count. But yeah, we'll have something cool coming on that. So if you've missed it, also forgot to mention fucking Lomachenko fighting this weekend. I put out a little a mini guide. I'm not even going to call it a Filthy Casuals guide. I think I called it a cheeky mini guide to Lomachenko and his pressure footwork and counter punching. That's on the channel now, the YouTube channel. It's about 2 minutes long, 3 minutes maybe. It was really just a little thing that I saw. I went, fucking hell, that's cool. And I put it in a video because I was writing this article for Unibet on the Lomachenko versus Campbell fight. So if you want to read that or the Weili Zhang sidekick study, go to fightprimer.com. If you want to send an email to the podcast, fightsgonepodcast@gmail.com. I've forgotten the rest of my plugs. I did them in the wrong order. Anyway, I'm your boy Jack Slack, and I will catch you on Monday. Weili Zhang's shoulder girth bless.